Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Now I'm feeling a little talkative today, so I guess just like view this video as somewhat of like a podcast but in video form. But yeah, let's just get started. So by the title you can probably get the gist of what this video is going to be about, but for the sake of my brain and language, I'll just introduce it. Recently, the Guild Wars 2 had its 6th year anniversary. Happy birthday, Guild Wars 2. I know I'm a little late, but might as well say it. And with their 6th year anniversary, they put out a video, one celebrating their past creations and achievements, and also touching a little bit about Season 4 and the future for Season 5. Yes, it was clarified, and you probably already know by now, that Season 4 will lead into another season of Living World and not an expansion. Personally, I really enjoy this, and it reminds me, it feels like we're going back in time a little bit to Season 1 days, because it went Season 1, then Season 2, and then it went Heart of Thorns. So it kind of just reminds me a bit of that. So I'm excited to see how this flows and how the game paces itself. But with the video, they talked about, well, they really didn't talk about too much. I mean, nothing like spoilerish, but we've already killed Joko. Spoiler alert, I know, shocking. But we've killed Joko. So myself included, with the rest of the community, we're kind of like, we're probably going to go after Krakatork next, because that is the most logical step, is to go after the Elder Dragon Krakatork. Now, for me, what I'm questioning is, how long can the Krakatork storyline last? Is it going to take up the rest of Season 4 and end at Season 4? Or is it going to be spread out through Season 4 into Season 5? That, I don't know. They could also go the route of not even going after Krakatork next. But I don't think they're going to do that, because I feel like that would be really strange. Hypothetically, they could go Joko and then into another villain. But what villain could that be? Because with Path of Fire, we had the 3 main villains. Balthazar, Joko, and then Krakatork. So it's probably going to be Krakatork. Just for the sake of my brain and not having anxiety and mental stress, probably Krakatork. But it would be really interesting if they just did a little twist. So going back to what I was previously saying, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle Krakatork. And of course, no one's really in the writer's room, and even if you do work at ArenaNet and you are a writer, you can't say anything, so it's purely speculation. So it's really interesting to think of, how are we going to handle Krakatork in this season? Are we going to kill him, or is he going to be like spread out through Season 4 into Season 5? And with the whole magic incident, what's going to happen with Arena? Are we going to kill Krakatork and then Arena's just going to take on the magic of Krakatork himself? Like, how is Arena going to get into this? Like, this is so strange. So that's like the Krakatork business that I wanted to talk about. But along with the whole recap of Season 4, they also touched on a new feature that is coming with Season 4, known as Sun's Refuge, which I believe happens to be the Sunspear Sanctuary from Guild Wars 1. I didn't play Nightfall, so I'm not like super knowledgeable about the locations and what happened, but I believe it's a Sunspear Sanctuary / Sunspear base. And with this, I immediately thought of another MMO known as, a little MMO known as World of Warcraft. And with World of Warcraft, they did a garrison system, which granted you missions for, you basically play Farmville. You just sent your followers on missions and you got rewards. And then with Legion, they made class order halls, which was a hub for everyone who was the same class to meet and get missions and get quests and get special skins and talk to vendors. And that's what I'm kind of getting from this Sun's Refuge. Now, I don't know if this is what they have in mind, but from the video, they said, yeah, it's a place where you can get vendors, NPCs, and talk to them. Not actually, no, they didn't say vendors, but said NPCs. And with NPCs, I typically think of lore and vendors. And along with NPCs, they also said where you can get collections and I think like do events or something like that. But this is very, very interesting. And if they follow through with this, this could radically change the course of how Guild Wars 2 plays out in a gameplay standard and how they actually deliver content. Right now, we're kind of just left around and we're kind of just exploring the world, which I hope also stays. I hope that it doesn't become where you just sit in Sun's Refuge. But with Sun's Refuge, they could have it more of a quest hub where you gain special collections, technically quests. I mean, at this point, collections are basically just quests. Let's be real. And with these new collection quests, it gives you a reason to go out into the world and do activities. Now, I can also see this being like a really easy way of implementing new content or new quests to the point where you don't have to sit and wait for new Living World episodes. And that's something that I've started to really feel recently, is that when you have Living World, you have an episode, and once the episode is released, that's it. You're left to simmer there for 3 months, if that's all you do. Of course, I've been doing more PvP and raids, which also keeps players entertained. But for people who might not do that all the time or do those game modes repetitively to the point where it gets dull, you're left with like not much else to do. So with this, they could have it to where every 2 or 3 weeks, instead of 3 months, like 1 or 2 new collections or quests pop in and there's something else to do. Which also reminds me of the current event system. This could honestly also just be a great hub for current events, to like where you go and collect current event storylines and go off and do them. I think that would be an awesome idea. And maybe have a bounty board where there's like one special bounty or like one new bounty. So I don't know. The sky is the limit with this and how they could configure this and program this. Now, a lot of people have also been talking about player housing, which personally I'm not a huge fan of. I've never really been a huge fan of player housing. It's like if I wanted player housing, I'd just go play Minecraft or like Farmville, something like that, Stardew Valley. I'm playing an MMO to be around people. That's why I love capital cities a lot, like Lion's Arch, and even the expansion zones like the Lily, the Elon, because you're around people. Which is one reason why I'm kind of scared for Sun's Refuge, because I don't want to be stuck in there 24/7 and just not do anything. But I don't really, realistically and optimistically, I don't think that's going to happen. That's Sun's Refuge. I think that's all that it's been on my mind lately. Oh, but to finish the point of player housing, I think it'd be kind of cool if it had a touch of player housing where you can get a couple trophies, do a little bit of decoration, and just have a little place to enjoy. So for those of you who want player housing, I think it'd be a really smart and easy way to integrate it. So I think I think that pretty much covers my Sun's Refuge. I'm just doing a quick mental rundown. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Okay, moving on to the next point with Season 5. I talked a little bit about Season 4, about Palawa Joko and the Krakatork issue. If we are faced with the reality that Krakatork is dealt with in Season 4 somehow, maybe Krakatork becomes an ally. You never know. Maybe he joins the fight with Oreen and he's like, Oreen, I'm sorry. I'm atoning for my sins. I don't think that will ever happen, but it'd be really cool. Who or what is happening with Season 5? Situations that immediately come to mind would be going off on an adventure to figure out who E is. They touched on E in season 3 during the Lake Dork patch, and that was the only time that they touched on E. And E has been in the background just lingering. Part of me doesn't want to know who E is, but the other part of me really wants to know, because it's like a mystery. The whole reason we love a mystery is because A, it's mysterious, and B, we have the potential of finding out the mystery. So E is a definite candidate for the player character to go after and to find out who E is. And like maybe E contacts us in season 5 and has another issue to deal with. Another person that comes to mind is actually Malik. And I'm like 99.9% sure that there are recent dev quotes about Malik's existence and Malik's tree, and how someone has already made a comic or storyline for Malik, but they haven't actually implemented it in game. And the only reason I'm saying 99.8% is because you never know when you can just dream something up and you hardcore believe it, because your brain works in weird ways. So Malik would be a really interesting scenario. However, I don't think that he would be a season 5 person to deal with. I think he would be more of a current or side story character. And I think it'd be smart if he was a side story character. And connecting it back to Sun's Refuge, maybe Malik pops into Sun's Refuge for some weird reason and is like, hey, help me with my tree. Figure my story out. We need to cover this ground. We need to wrap this present in a bow and just ship it. And I think that would be really cool for Malik. Honestly, the only person I really see is E. Where we could go, though, is quite interesting. We still have quite a bit of the desert to cover, so I'm excited to see what happens with season 4 in terms of where we go. But new regions, I think it'd be really interesting if we go to the unending ocean. I'm just gonna say it. You know, the Largos are really strange and awesome, and they've talked about the unending ocean, how it's dangerous right now. I don't know. And plus with the underwater combat changes, I think it'd be really cool if we got an expansion where they mixed in above ground combat and underwater combat. I wouldn't want a whole zone that was just underwater. I think it'd be cool if like 2/3 of the zone was above water and then 1/3 was underwater, or vice versa. I think it could go well either way. But you know, the Largos just have been so interesting to me for a couple months now, because I've been like just looking up at lore and I'm like, they're so cool. Plus their wings. Could you imagine playing as the Largos? It'd be so cool. Part of me wants to go to the unending ocean, and then another part of me wants to go further east to like the Blood Legion homelands, because if you remember, there was that data mine larger map, which I know I'm not really supposed to talk about, because you know it's not released yet technically in game, and you never know, they might just have done that to do it. So don't get your hopes up, but you know, it's there. So that's all I'm gonna say. It's there. Blood Legion homelands, where you at? But yeah, that's part of what I want to cover. But the final thing I want to say, I could really talk about this for hours. Someone get me on a podcast. But the last thing I want to say is a bit more personal to me, on my own thoughts and feelings about Living World and how they've been delivering content. Recently, I've been looking back to season 1 and to season 2 as well, and seeing what worked there, because my enthusiasm with season 3, it goes like to 100 down to like 50 down to 0 pretty quickly, because once the episode launches, I play it for about a week and then I'm kind of left to dry. That could also be chalked up to my poorly budgeting skills and I just binge it all. But One thing with season 2 and season 1 that I noticed was that the updates were pretty frequent. And I know they had that whole 2-week span, which was really unrealistic. But honestly, if it was like a month and a half, that felt really good. It felt like a really nice, sweet spot. And one reason why I think that they were able to do, or one reason that I probably know why they were able to release content on a more frequent schedule, on a more quick schedule, is because they didn't release a map every single episode. And I know a lot of people are just have become accustomed to expecting a new map every single episode. But I gotta admit, with like the recent Living World season, like I felt like they didn't need to add a new map. For the sake of the story they needed to, and the story was amazing with the new maps, but in the back of my mind I'm like, do they really need to add a new map? Because I'm not gonna go back and play it. Like the incentives weren't there, and there are just so many maps that it's become inflated, and it hasn't become a grand experience. It's just something that's become really, it's become something that we've learned to expect. And a part of season 2 that I loved so much was Dry Top. And with Dry Top, when it first released, we got that small little bite of the map. And it was nice, and there were a lot of people there, and it felt populated, and felt like people were doing events, and there were actual rewards to go on, and they could slowly build up the rewards. With the next update, or like, I think it was like the next update, or the next update, they released another chunk of the map for people to explore, and people were excited. They went back to Dry Top, they did more stuff. It kept people in that area. And then with like the next update, they brought in the final part, and the story all kind of came together in a single map, but it still felt really satisfying and worthwhile. And I think, part of me knows my truth, my personal truth. If they went back to that model of giving us a map, and then the next update give us the other section of the map, they could improve the frequency at which they release content, keeping it pretty high quality, because ArenaNet is amazing at quality. Other than I will say the Domain of Corna, it was okay, but the meta event was a little saddening to most of the population. But if they have this, it also gives them some relaxation or some downtime to really refine those details. Because if they're expected to pump out a map every single episode, that's a lot. To make a whole new map every single episode is a lot. I don't even program, or I don't work in games where I build games, but I can imagine that's pretty taxing, because you have to build it from scratch, you have to get all the assets, update assets if you want people to keep interested, new enemies, new events, whole new zones, and especially with the size of Path of Fire and their maps, it's ridiculous. So I feel like if they went back to the style of Dry Top, they wouldn't be as pressured, or it wouldn't feel as unsatisfying as it did with Domain of Corna. If they applied what they did in season 2 to Domain of Corna, we could have gotten the northern section of the Domain of Corna. We could have, like, the map could have been from the northern end of the Domain of Corna all the way to the Vine Wall, but we couldn't go past the Vine Wall. And then with the next update, then we would have gone into the Gandara Moon Fortress and actually had the invasion of Bajoko. And that also would save us, and that would also implement more story to where we can go to the different regions and rally the troops, not to have this weird gimmick of, oh, there's a portal. No, we could actually spend time getting our allies together and formulating plans and have like some sabotage and like a bit longer in that region and some more world building. And then with the next update, have the invasion of the Gandara Moon Fortress. Because I'm going to say episode 3 felt like a finale in a way, but it wasn't as protracted. My dog is sneezing in the background. But it didn't feel as protracted, and it didn't feel as grand when I took a second look at it. It felt long, but I felt like something was missing. And I don't really see a lot of people in the Domain of Cornet. I'm sorry, I'm just going on a tangent now. So basically, to sum up my whirlpool of thoughts, I really think it'd be smart if they went back to releasing a map and then in further episodes expanding on that map until they finally reach the point where they're ready to move on to a separate map. And also wouldn't feel like we're just wasting zones. And it also wouldn't feel like that ArenaNet has to make a new meta event and a really amazing, worthwhile reward every single map, because then eventually certain maps are just going to get outdated and no one's going to go back to them. Like Sandswept Isles, I don't really go to. Domain of Vabi was an expansion map, and I don't really go there. I don't really have any real reason to go there. I feel bad for the Garden of Saborin. I don't see anyone in there. I don't feel like there's a reason to go in there. The Kodash Bazaar, I just went past it. It's infested with branded, and it's so beautiful, but there's no reason to go there. At least I think. None that has been apparent to me. So I don't know. This is something I've wanted to say for a long time, so I guess this was the appropriate video to say it. Thank you everyone for watching if you sat through this podcast-ish type video. So yeah, thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe for more videos on this. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really just wanted to talk. And, you know, who doesn't like a lengthy talk? I know I sure as hell do. But subscribe for more Guild Wars 2 content. I'm excited to see what happens with the future. And, yeah, see you all in the next video. Bye, everyone. Mwah. Down below, I have links to all things Guild Wars 2 for free-to-play players and expansion players alike. So if you or a loved one are interested in playing Guild Wars 2, check the links down below and begin your adventure in Tyria today. See you in game!